Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and today we're going to have a look at the GFS, the GEM, the ECMWF, the UK Met Office run, along with the ECMWF ensembles and the GFS ensembles. Now it is looking increasingly likely that we're going to be going very cold in February. Now in this video I'm going to just have a look really towards mid to long range for the potential cold conditions in February. Now there is snow potentially coming up over the next couple of days, and I'm going to be posting a video later today into this evening looking at snow chances for the next week, really. So subscribe and stay up to date if you want to view that, but we're looking more at the big picture in this video. So if we run through the GFS run at the moment, you can see the areas of low pressure that could potentially give us some snow this weekend. Again, they're not going to change too much, but in the next day there's a chance that they could alter slightly north or southwards, but at the moment it does look like, especially on Saturday, the snow event that is looking mainly confined to hills. There is still potential for some falling snow elsewhere, but it's looking like mainly over hills. And then Sunday, Monday, still looking potentially for more widespread snow, but still quite uncertain, and we'll have a look at the latest model runs later. But as we move through into next week, start to see the cold air does have less of an influence as lower pressures out the Atlantic bring up southwesterly winds. Now, it's going to remain unsettled, quite mild, especially further south, and it's going to have quite a few showers around. But beyond that, you start to see pressure rising to our north, the low starting to move further southwards, and it's looking like by next weekend, we're going to be pulling in a pretty swift easterly wind, and it's going to have some quite cold air within it. Now there's very mild air pushing up from the south, but at the moment it's looking like we're remaining on the colder side of the low pressure. Sorry. And as we bring that in, it's likely to bring in snow showers, and as that milder air bumps into it, could potential for some quite significant snow where this weather front meets. And again, it's something when you really need to keep a watch on, because where that does happen, it is likely there'll be snow to the northern edge and rain to the southern edge. But if you have a look at this, it's likely that it could be setting up over northern France, parts of like Belgium, Netherlands, and could be creeping into southern England. Very interesting to see that, and that would provide some very heavy snow with a big clash in air masses. Beyond that, it looks like high pressure wins out against lower pressure and the milder air to the south. We start to bring in a bitterly cold northeasterly wind. Now, this is starting to get into the more unreliable time frame, but this has been we've been seeing this on a lot of the models and the GFS run for the last couple of days, and by Tuesday, 9th of February, we are bringing in a bitterly cold northeasterly wind all the way from Svalbard, Scandinavia, Siberia direction. And we'll run on the temperature maps, and you can see the -10 line engulfs the UK, and we start to bring in the -15 line. Now, when we had the beast from the east in 2018, we got almost the -20 line in, which is remaining more out into Eastern Europe. However, given this is early February, the sun is not as strong, the ground is still relatively cold, it's likely that this could give equivalent temperatures, perhaps even colder if this came off. Wouldn't be surprised to see largely, especially when we have this -10 over us, most of the country not to get above freezing at any point during the day if this scenario came off. As although there is low pressure around, the winds are quite slack, so it's less likely to be moving the air around, and it's likely to get really cold towards the surface, and could be seeing very cold conditions, perhaps -15, -20 degrees in the cold spots of the UK, potentially with this. So very cold conditions, and there's likely to be a lot of snow around as well, especially where we see these strong easterly winds coming off the North Sea, likely to bring up convective snow showers, and then other areas of low pressure bumping into the cold air, just like this low plunging further from the north, bringing more cold air within it, and then reinforcing the cold by the end of the run, remaining very cold for a good week, really there. A good week remaining bitterly cold, so quite a locked-in cold spell with the current GFS run. Now we'll have a look at the GEM and the ECMWF in a minute, see if they back it up, but we'll have a short look at the UK Met and see if that's having a look potentially 144 hours of the cold spell potentially starting Now, the UK Met unfortunately don't release their full model to the public. You have to pay for it, pay quite a lot for it. So unfortunately, we can only look out from 72 to 144 hours and on the pressure charts. But we'll run through it regardless, and you can see by 144 hours, high pressure is building to our north, and we are starting to see that low pressure sink southwards, and we're starting to bring in an easterly wind, especially further north. So it's looking like at least 144 hours, the UK Met and GFS are looking near identical by the time we get to the end of that run. So looking promising, as the UK Met is generally the most reliable model in most people's eyes, really. So we'll have a look at the GM, see whether that is following up with the GFS, and seeing if that agrees. Now, as we run through, again, a very similar pattern for the next few days. And as we head to the end of next week, you start to see high pressure to our north, an easterly wind sets up. With this GEM run, it's a cold easterly wind, again with that big temperature contrast just over sort of northern France. There's potential for a weather front along there, maybe bringing some snow into the south. Beyond that, high pressure does topple though, however. But it remains strong. It doesn't look like it's going to get budged out of the way, but it's toppling. Still got quite cold air around, so this would be a lot drier, but still quite cold towards day 10. Again, it still has a decent chance that it could move further north. If we have a look at this, you can see it's still reasonably high pressure to the north, so it could ridge further northwards, and then we see this low plunge southwards, and then we sort of bring much colder in that way. So although the GM is not bringing it's not bringing the blocking further northwards, we are still remaining cold and still potential for some snow around. Again, it's subject to change, and the GM yesterday was showing very cold conditions. Perhaps this is just sort of a blip of a run where the high pressure is slightly altered. Again, though, it's not nailed in this cold spell. It's not guaranteed that we're going to see sort of bitterly cold like the GFS. There is still the chance we do see a scenario like this where it's almost really cold, but it doesn't quite get there. But fingers crossed, we do see some very cold conditions with a lot of snow for some areas that haven't seen a lot of snow this winter so far. If we have a look at the ECMWF run, ECMWF actually does go very cold. I've had a look at this run already this morning, and it has a very similar pattern to all the other model runs until 144, 168 hours, and then it builds high pressure to our north, builds more of a Scandinavian high, and towards the end of the run, we are pulling in a bitterly cold easterly wind with the -10 line, engulfing the whole of the UK, and that Scandinavian high doesn't look like it's budging. And if that sort of mills around there, we'll be pulling in a big easterly wind with very cold conditions. And if you have a look at the temperature gradient, the temperature deviation, you can see bitterly cold, -10 degrees from average at 850 HPA, reaching the UK. So very, very cold conditions, and it would, although it's slightly different setups to the GFS run, both are bringing a sort of a northerly sort of block, or Scandinavian block, bringing in very cold air. So whichever one, if either one came off, it would still provide very cold conditions. We'll have a look at the ECMWF ensembles now, see what they are showing. Now, this is probably a better way of viewing sort of the ECM run in general, as it shows more of the ensemble member runs and shows different scenarios are possible, as the operational one could always be an outlier, or it could be with the most favoured group. So I'll run through it quickly, and as you can see, low pressure quite dominant, but there's still a higher pressure to our north, so that's why we're seeing a little bit of blocking around, keeping the north of the country quite cold. But as we head towards day 10, you'll see blocking strengthens in our north, and generally we're pulling in an easterly sort of flow. So by the 7th of February, where sort of the pattern where most of the models we just viewed were starting to bring in very cold conditions, you can see most of the ensembles have got a Scandinavian high, with the reds bringing in a bitterly cold easterly wind. There is one going for an NAO-, so that would be still cold, as it's still got a lot of blocking to our north, but it's more of a low pressure influence, so perhaps maybe milder further southwards. But that's all the ensemble members are showing. By the 7th, bitterly cold conditions are quite likely. As we move beyond that, the blocking doesn't really move. There are a few ensemble members, we'll run right to the end, a few ensemble members, such as these 11 down here, that are trying to move lower pressure in, but the block's remaining strong and it's remaining an easterly wind. But it's very exceptional to see all the ensemble members from about day 7, day 8, all the way to 360 hours, showing a big block to our north and Scandinavian high. All of the ensemble members are going for a Scandinavian high. So we could be setting up a quite prolonged cold spell here. As again, it's not nailed on, but it's looking ever so likely every single day that these models run. It's looking more and more likely. The outliers, the other outliers, are dropping as we speak, and hopefully we can actually see a properly cold, sustained spell, the first we've seen in many, many years. Perhaps even 2013, we last saw a spell of quite prolonged cold. Now you'd say the beast from the east was very cold, but it did only last 4 or 5 days, whereas this has the potential to last a week, 10 days plus. So, yeah. Be very interesting to see what happens over the next few days as the models really confirm what we're looking at. Lastly, we'll have a look at the upper airs for London with the precipitation. And you can see it's pretty nailed on what's going to happen over the next 4 or 5 days, with colder conditions coming in this weekend, potential for some snow around. London perhaps could see some falling snow and maybe a bit of settling snow for some suburbs and the surrounding areas. But again, I really wouldn't bank on guaranteed snow this weekend. There's a potential, but again, the parameters are so slight. It's going to be very marginal if you see it, snow or not. Perhaps maybe tomorrow morning, and then maybe again Sunday into Monday. There's a chance you do see some more snow, but you can't really rule anything out at the moment, or guarantee there's going to be snow. Beyond that, the temperatures do rise into the week before they stop plunge as we head towards 5th, 6th, 7th February, and the average from sort of the 6th of February all the way until sort of the end of the run remains below average, and is remaining around -5, -6 for most of that. And you see a whole host of ensemble members are coming from -10 and below, and you see that GFS operation run. Although it's the coldest ensemble member right at the end, it's not really an outlier in what it's doing. It's slightly colder than some of the ensemble members at that point, but there are still 4, 5, 6, 7 ensemble members, almost sort of a third or a quarter of the ensemble members are now going to that depths of cold towards the end of the run, and even earlier than that, you'd say more than half, maybe 2/3 of the ensemble members now are going below -5 in the shorter term, sort of around the 6th, 7th, and you see this average is only really being dragged up by a few sort of 4 or 5 mild ensemble members. So it's looking ever so likely that we're going to be turning cold. Whether it's going to be a beastly sort of cold that we could see on the GFS operation run or that ECMWF run, still yet to confirm, but it's definitely looking like it's going to be trending colder with more blocking around, and definitely the chances of some more widespread snowfall. As you can see, although high pressures more involved, you can see it's not going completely dry. So it's definitely looking like a lot of the ensemble members are trying to remain low pressure around, giving the enhanced chances of some quite heavy snowfall. One other good indicator of very cold air masses is the dew point, and although the 850 HPAs tell a good picture, the dew point normally tells you where the air mass is coming from. If you're getting a continental air mass, it's quite likely the dew points are going to be below freezing, whether it's -10 degrees or -5 degrees at 850 HPA. And the dew points is one of the most important factors for snow. And you can see the dew point average is well below freezing from about the 6th of February for the next week to 10 days beyond that. And many ensemble members going down to -5, -10 level, which is a bitterly cold air mass. And then again, only maybe 4 or 5 ensemble members are going above freezing. So it shows you, although some of the ensemble members are not going bitterly cold, that's that -10, -15, is showing a continental sort of airflow, so easterly airflow with very with low dew points, cold enough for snow. So that is looking even better and is likely to provide some very, very cold conditions. If we do have a brief look at temperature, 2 meters temperature, you can see very cold in the longer term. You can see most ensemble members are around or below the mean or the average of this ensemble run. You can see it's just being pulled up by a few outliers at the moment, and many are going only around highs of 2 or 3, 4 degrees, perhaps even lower. And if we do see some snow cover, as again I said earlier in the video, if we did see that GFS operational run come off, you'd be seeing ice days quite widely where the temperature wouldn't get above freezing. So anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you're new and stay up to date, as I'll be posting sort of a look at the snow potential over the next week later to end this evening. So anyway, thanks for watching.